come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part2. Joining me today is a very special guest. I have with me Mr. Jacob Carlson. Hello, Jacob.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Jacob is the one who did the character designs for this lovely new Geeky Gentleman art you're seeing. I did the CGI background and stuff. I always really like mixing traditional and digital art like that. It's a fun look and I've missed doing it. So thank you very much for the traditional art, Jacob.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm working on something special for you. Just in case you ever get bored of the 3D model, I have something in the works. So
oh, cool!
I'm
excited.
be ready for that.
Cool. I'm excited to see that. All right. Well, anyway, so like Jacob's price per admission, because he's an idiot, was to review a book with me. So, Jacob, what foolish decision did you make?
The foolish decision I made was making you get your feet wet with The Flash.
Indeed.
And specifically the first book of Geoff Johns' Flash run, which is issues 164 to 167, and then the special one-shot The Flash Iron Heights as well.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, this was a interesting read for me because I've tried to get into the Flash before. I picked up Flash Rebirth when that was first in trade, and I enjoyed some things about it. A lot of people have problems with it. There are, I think, some good scenes in it that are just like objectively cool.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I've read, I tried reading his just before New 52 run.
Oh, the volume 3 with Barry after Rebirth?
Yeah, where it's like 6 issues and then we get New 52.
I think it's actually 12, but I don't mean to nitpick, so...
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's something really short.
Yeah. I read all of that. I cannot remember literally anything about it. And I read a little bit of the New 52 Barry Allen book and just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, okay.
But this is like something I have mixed feelings on. So it'll be interesting to discuss it with you because
yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Barry Allen run because, well, first of all, I guess let me back up a little bit. So the two monumental Flash runs that people talk about are Mark Waid's run and Geoff Johns' run. In Waid's run in the 90s was from 1992 to 97, and then he took a break for 13 issues, and that break that he took were the issues that Mark Millar and Grant Morrison wrote, and they collected in that trade, and then he came back in 98 and wrote it in 2000, until 2000. And then there was a 4-issue break, and then Geoff Johns was on the book.
Okay, so
and Geoff Johns,
really big writers back to back on this.
Yeah, which is really odd, and I'll bring that up once we get into the meat of the first arc here, Wonderland. But it's crazy how short a gap of time there was between these two really big arcs. So Geoff Johns comes on the Flash, and it's at volume 2 now because they restarted it after Crisis on Infinite Earths. He's here from 164 to 225. That's the end of his run with Wally. So his run with Wally is from 2000 to 2005. Then he leaves to go do Green Lantern stuff. But at the end of his run with Wally, he's writing JSA and things like that. So he's still multitasking like he was at the beginning of the New 52, where he was writing 5 titles at the same time, which is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But he's on Wally for 5 years. He leaves and comes back and does Rebirth, with Barry, which is 6 issues, so that's another 6 months. His Barry run, because after Rebirth, they restarted the Flash series at Volume 3, and so he's on that for a little bit over a year, and then you have Flashpoint, which is another 6 months. So he has Wally for 5 years, Barry for 3, and then they do New 52. And obviously he hasn't written The Flash since then unless it's been in the Rebirth one-shot. So both Mark Waid and Geoff Johns have these, like, at least a year gap in between their runs, and yet their story continues, at least in a thematic sense, sort of continuously, which is really interesting.
Okay. And see, I was really torn on this, because as I was reading through it, for the majority of it, I was like, man, I'm really, really not digging this.
Yeah.
But then once I get to the end, he really finds his footing. Right. He really finds his footing in a voice for this character in this universe. And, like, it's interesting because I've read his Green Lantern run, and that doesn't have this problem. Where he gets on Green Lantern and he is good to go right from the start.
Right.
Like, I love all of John's Green Lantern run in total. It has problems, of course, but that gets, like, a little bit worse towards the end than it was at the beginning, and he stops doing stuff that just stands on its own, and it becomes like this big rolling machine where it keeps picking up momentum as it went on. It starts out pretty rocky. The Wonderland stuff, and then the Mirror World stuff. I'm like, this is really, really tedious and annoying. Let me tell you where this turned around for me.
When Scott Collins came on?
What?
When Scott Collins came on? Was that, I think that's either his first or second issue.
The Tar Pit issue, whichever one that is. That's where I'm like, oh my god, is this still Geoff Johns writing this, or did Geoff Johns, like, go to the future and steal someone else's work or something? Because, yeah, Scott Collins penciler for the Tar Pit issue.
I think his first issue is the first part of the Blood Will Run, which is the Cicada story. And I think
the Cicada story was okay too. I liked things about that.
Yeah.
I just got a little annoyed by the not necessarily the art, more the coloring, because I have no idea what race his wife is throughout this.
Linda?
Yeah, I have no idea if she's black, white, Asian. I cannot tell you. The colorists could not get their shit together with her. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that is pretty hilarious. To be honest, that never even occurred to me. But I think you're right, because I'm looking at this first issue where they're in the ice rink, and like, so there's like a blue tint on her and Wally's faces, and
but they
you
just
can't
look
tell
gray.
that. Yeah, and they look great, but you can't tell that they have, like, different skin tones. So I think you're right on that. I mean, I've never. That is a good question. I'll have to look into that. But
it's just like it's throughout the entire run. Like, whoever, like, I don't think it's the same colorist for more than an issue or two. But throughout the entire run, I cannot tell what race his wife is supposed to be. They all but do orange, right? It's kind of ridiculous, because, like, the first couple issues with the Wonderland stuff, when we see her, she looks like either black or something, and then in the Cicada story, she looks kind of black, kind of brownish, and then you get to the latter stuff, starting with, like, the Tar Pit issue, and she just looks like suddenly really white. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, her skin tone is a lot lighter. I'm flipping through right now, and I just got to the Tar Pit issue. James Sinclair was the colorist for all of that, and he's the colorist for the Weather Wizard story as well.
Gotcha.
So it's really interesting that you say that you had a rough time getting into it when you first read it, because I had the same thing. So I read this book 1, 5 times. I read it when it came out. and then I read it again when book 2 came out because I kind of forgotten what went on. And then when book 3 came out, I read books 1 and 2 again. And on my first reading, my first reading was like 2 years ago when this first came out, I was like, I'm not digging the art in this. Like, I can't.
God, the art in that first two story arcs is pretty freaking hideous.
It's like
it's like you said, what, early 2000s for this?
Yeah, and
you can tell.
Yeah, and it's just, I was not digging it, and it was super hard for me to look at. And I think because Wonderland is the first 6 issues, but it's weird because they're in the mirror world for 4 of them, and then when they come back, they have the 2 issues with Brother Grimm, where Keystone City has been put into that Eastwind world where Brother Grimm is from. So there is like that split in the first arc, but I don't even remember on my first reading. Like, I think I flipped to that 2-page spread where they got to Keystone City and Eastwind, and I'm like, all right, this is so ugly, I can't even look through this. So I skipped until Scott Collins' first issue, and then I read it, and then I had no problems.
Well, what's really funny is, like, I just don't know what they're doing. Like, Tom King has got me into paneling and noticing paneling a lot more. So
right.
There's like this issue where they're in this still in the mirror world, and like Barry Allen and the police are in a standoff with Wally West and Captain Cold in a graveyard.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this panel, and I have no idea what the hell is supposed to be going on.
Is it the one where it's upside down?
Yeah, it's from an aerial view, and like they look upside. It just looks weird for no reason. Is it
the end of the second issue, or is it in the third issue?
I'm pretty sure it's in the third issue.
Because the third issue is...
chapter 3.
Oh, yeah, and then they have the guns pointed at him, and then it, like, flips to the other aerial perspective.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. I have no idea what they're thinking.
Yeah.
It looks terrible.
Yeah. So my first reading of this did not go so well because I didn't even remember what he was doing in the first 6 issues here. But then when I got to the issues that Scott Collins started on, I had no problem because it looked really pretty and I could follow it well. And I really love the way that Scott Collins conveys his speed. Because he has such a unique way of doing it, so the modern way of showing the Flash's speed isn't just to have that speed trail, but it's to have the lightning as well to show like the connection to the Speed Force. Mm-hmm. And the really interesting way that he draws it is the lightning symbols on the suit turn into the lightning. And they don't stay in the same shape. They come off of the suit as the lightning, which is really interesting. And, like, that's not a choice that I would necessarily make, but it looks really cool. And as I'm flipping through it, it's not as intense here as it is in later issues. But, like, with the ear wings, those, like, he has the, like, little circle things, and then the lightning replaces the wings as he's running, which is really sweet.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I do want to go back and talk about kind of the weakness of the other artists in it. And this is also on the scripting because I at several points in those first few issues caught myself like flipping the page and reading like a panel or two and then going, wait a minute. And like looking at the page to make sure I didn't like accidentally turn 2 pages at once. You know how you do that from time to time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept having to do that. And at no point did I do that. Did I end up grabbing 2 pages at once. It was just that... It was that far out and hard to follow. And I'm used to that. That's not inherently a problem.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a payoff that makes it enjoyable to do that much mental gymnastics work with.
Yeah, I mean... So, the guy who does the pencils in the first 6 issues is Angel Unzueta. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So he's with Geoff Johns for these first 6 issues for Wonderland, and then the first issue in book 2 is like a special one-shot with like Darkseid and everything, and he does that as well.
Gotcha.
So I can't remember if his panel work is any easier to follow in that one shot than it is here.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I first read this in my first reading, when you got that panel with the like twisted Jay Garrick holding Keystone City, I was like, what the heck is this? Because I just had never seen art like this, because I'm not somebody who ventures back into older comics that much, so I'm used to art that's very like that's very easy to follow, and the panel work just looks kind of busy. And my only potential defense that may or may not be warranted is that because he's in a mirror world and then in Eastwind, it's like a crazy environment, so we need crazy paneling. But even then, that's a stupid explanation.
It's one of those things where, like, I've heard people make similar arguments for different things, like, oh, the editing is really bad because it wants to disorient you. And I can get that, and I can get behind that, but that you are always walking a very thin line when you try to achieve stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you can do that to build into your thematic, build into the thematics of your work, but if you go too far with it, it doesn't change the fact that it becomes unwatchable, unreadable, what have you.
Yeah.
A good example of that is Clockwork Orange. I always go back to Clockwork Orange, but Clockwork Orange, the characters in that, the whole book is written in this fictitious slang from the future that's like a mix of Russian and Cockney. And it's very hard to get into at first but once you keep reading it and you get into it, it works fine, and it in fact enhances the story.
Right.
You can't do very many things like that because it will put you off. It will make it so you can't read it. You can't look at it or whatever. And like, I don't know, I'm looking through this, and some of this stuff, just the anatomy. One of my favorite things to do when I'm doing my comic review show is when I see characters in a really, really awkward position, I try to do that pose. I'll like get up out of my chair and do that occasionally. Yeah. And I'm looking at this panel of Flash in the Hall of Mirrors, avoiding the lasers, and just I don't know what that pose is.
Yeah, that was super weird.
It looks so awkward.
I remember looking at that when I read it, and I was like, man, like that must be really hard to hit a pose like that.
Yeah, I get that he's trying to. He stopped on a dime, but I'm like, why the hell did he stop like that?
Yeah,
wouldn't he stop in whatever position he was actually in?
Yeah, that's true. So while we're talking about the art, it's worth it to mention that Brian Bolland is doing the covers.
Oh, yeah.
For these.
Yeah.
And Brian Bolland is here. I think his last cover is 186. So he's on here for like 20 or 22 issues. And then Scott Collins is doing covers, which is really cool because Collins is doing the exterior cover and then the interior art, which is just really nice to have that consistency. But with the art, all three artists have a different way of drawing the Flash suit, which is really interesting because when Wally became the Flash, everybody was like, oh, we need to make the suit look different and have it distinct, and this was mostly during Mark Waid's run, so they made the suit darker, that darker red like they have in the TV show. It's shiny, and then they gave him the closed, the white lenses on his eyes like Batman has. And that was primarily the look for Mark Waid's run. So another interesting layer to that transition period between Waid and Johns' run is that there's 4 issues in between Waid and Johns. And 2 of those issues are written by a guy who is writing the annuals when Waid is doing his thing. So writing-wise, there isn't a transition. But even when you pick up this book, visually, it's still Mark Waid. Because Angel Unzueta is still drawing the Flash suit like Greg LaRocque would in Mark Waid's run. He's got the shiny suit, the belt is drawn like it is in the 90s with the like V shape that mirrors the lightning bolt.
Yeah, and it's interesting to look as it goes on because that changes. We go to the opened eyes. We go to like a lighter red. It's not as dark. Like there's not as much shading on the costume itself.
Yeah, and something that I noticed on my most recent reading are the ear wings, because Brian Bolland draws the wings very traditionally, where they're actually wings. And in the 90s, they changed them so they're like really short, stubby, triangular pieces of metal, or like shiny metal looking. And Angel Unzueta draws them like that. But Scott Collins draws them very Barry Allen-like with the actual wings. So it's just the art in this, like the way I thought about it as I was going into my fourth reading, because I read it 2 times to prepare for this, so when I knew we were going to do this, I sat down to read it again. I was thinking about the art and trying to compare and contrast that, and I just forgot where I was going with this. Awesome.
You were thinking about the art, and the way in which that, like, you got Bolin kind of draws them traditional Barry. You got
it's because I was trying to think back to my first couple times reading it, and I just remember feeling like the art was so consistent between Brian Bolland doing covers and then Angel Unzueta doing pencils, and then 6 issues in switching to Scott Collins doing pencils and Bolland still doing the covers, and everybody drawing the Flash suit a little differently, that it just it was offsetting at first. Just because you want consistency, or as much as you can, and you want it to make sense, and it's just like from issue to issue things are drawn differently. And interestingly, this style that Scott Collins is doing isn't his actual style of art.
Yeah. And so we're forgetting one person who did the one shot.
Yeah.
Van Sciver. Shiver?
I've always heard it as Van Sciver.
Skyver, okay, whatever. Like, I don't hear these guys' names is the problem. Like, people always tell me I'm pronouncing their names wrong on comic reviews. Well, like, guess what? I don't hear their names. I just read them.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, Skyver, of course, being the one who did a lot of John's Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see how he draws the Flash. And he kind of takes the thing of having the lightning bolts come out of the yellow like you were talking about, but he's got more of the traditional wings on the cowl. And
those are like very traditional wings now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and he does like both the Batman lenses and the open white eyes.
Yeah, and they have that cool scene where he switches them because the suit is made out of the Speed Force, so he can just switch them like that, which is really cool. And I guess that I mean, because Scott Collins' style not being, because his first issue on the Flash was 160, and that was the first issue that Mark Waid wasn't on. That was the first issue with a 4 in between Waid and Johns, and he did that in his normal style, and then he got hired on to do the book monthly. And he said that he wanted to make the book look different from the other guys, you know, like how is he going to make the costume look different, how is he going to make his face look different, and so he purposefully did a style where he opened the figures up for more color and added more details into the background to balance things out. But the transition between the Flash suit, we know as readers that when a new creative team comes on, things are going to look different and feel different, and that's part of the problem with the 90s Flash, is that some people would do the Barry Allen-esque suit, and other people would do the Wally West shiny suit, so there was that inconsistency. But that scene in the one-shot, Iron Heights, where Wally has to change the lenses, I took that as sort of Geoff Johns sort of poking fun at how inconsistent the suit has been drawn. And
yeah, I mean, it's like a fun little nod that actually fixes continuity thing where he just switches it whenever he feels like.
Yeah, he can just switch it whenever he wants.
Yeah, but it just works as a cool little thing. Like, You know, the funny thing, I talk about this all the time, and I don't know why I keep bringing up Green Lantern, but I'm going to keep doing it until you stop me. Um, like, everyone bitches about the movie costume in Green Lantern. I still think it's the best film costume for a superhero we've ever seen. And, like, you could never do this with Flash on television now. Everyone's going to need it to be a practical suit now, because you can't do the Speed Force energy as the costume on live action after all the bitching people had about Green Lantern. Whereas, I really want to see the Flash costume as a fully CG costume now.
Yeah, but at the same time, Barry Allen on the TV show doesn't deserve a Speed Force suit.
I agree. On the TV show, no, but on in a live action film, I would love.
Or like in the movie, that would be dope, because there's talk of them. Oh, like this Flash suit is just a prototype. He's gonna get an upgraded one, and it's like, can we just have them have one suit? Like, we did the progression thing.
No, we cannot, Jacob. We need to sell toys.
I know, but they did the whole progression thing on the TV show where he started with the red emblem, and then they did it to the white, but he still doesn't, because we saw in that veteran Flash from 2024 how he has the bright red suit. Barry's been doing this for 3 years, and he still doesn't have the bright red suit. Seriously? Like,
well, he's got 10 years to get there, so give him
yeah, I guess that's true.
If there was a time skip, I would agree with you, but it's only been 3. He has 10 before it's a problem.
I suppose that's fair.
Watch, they do it for like one episode just to keep continuity.
I don't know, man. I don't know. But I can tell you, too, that going back to this, after getting more involved in the TV show, it was so nice to just sit down and read classic Flash, where we don't have speedster fever all the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, where it's not like, what's the joke Steve made that cracked me up? He cannot say, I'm the fastest man alive at the beginning of every episode until we stop using this plot element where he's not.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, this Geoff Johns Flash is like traditional Flash. We only get an evil speedster showing up once in a blue moon. And while Thawne is Barry's greatest enemy, and while Hunter Zolomon is Wally's greatest enemy, they're not around all the time, because you can't tell good, reliable stories when the people are sharing the same power. You can't do that every single issue. And that's why the Rogues are the big bads, and I don't want to say the everyday threat, but the Mark Waid's run is famous for taking Wally West, who was a really like brash, arrogant character, and smoothing him out and giving him a rounded character and developing the Flash family. And Johns' run is known for taking that Wally West, evolving him into a place which is still interesting and new, but really developing the Rogues as well. Because the signature of Geoff Johns' run are these like one-shots called Rogue Profiles, where he sort of takes a break from the ongoing story, but not really, and he gives us an issue where the Rogue in question is the narrator. We get flashbacks of their past. They're telling us through the monologue who they are and why they are that way, and they're doing things that are moving the plot along. But
is that in the volume 2 or 3?
Yes. Unfortunately, none of them are in here. The first one is Captain Cold. Yeah, and then the second one is Pied Piper, then Zoom, and then Mirror Master and Heatwave. So he does 5 during Wally's run, and then the 2 he does during Barry's run are Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, and Captain Boomerang. And so those are sort of the signature of Geoff Johns' Flash, which is really interesting because Geoff Johns had such a big part in Season 1 of The Flash. He co-wrote those episodes, with those first couple episodes, and the Rogue episodes, which is really interesting because the Rogue Profiles are some of the best, if not the best, issues in Geoff Johns' run.
Gotcha. And Yeah, Johns does have a pretty good understanding for, like, not necessarily creating villains, but really rounding villains out and giving them proper motivation. Like, you look back to, again, I'm going to go to Green Lantern, fuck it. It's Geoff Johns, you can't not talk about Green Lantern.
Right.
You look to Sinestro as portrayed in the DC animated universe. Like, there's an episode where he's working with Lex Luthor and everybody to rob a train and get gold.
Yeah.
And like, that just doesn't make any sense for any version of Sinestro.
Right.
But then you get Johns, and like, he gives this character a proper motivation and a proper understanding, and it just works. He has a really good ability to give voice to villains, and you see that a lot here. You get it's not so much in this, but like, you get Captain Cold, Mirror Master, as like buddy cops in the beginning, and that was probably the thing I enjoyed the most about those. That first run. It was really rocky.
It was really fun, and what I really wanted to bring up about the second issue, since we're talking about story stuff now, is that we get hints of those rogue profiles with people other than Wally narrating Wally's book. And Captain Cold's one in the second issue is the first of them, and then for the next 5 issues we get somebody else other than Wally narrating it. It's Captain Cold, and then it's the Mirrorverse Barry, and I wish more was done with that, but whatever. But the Captain Cold one in particular is really sweet, because like the first... He's like, because the shtick of the Flash is, my name is Wally West, and I'm the fastest man alive, or Barry Allen, or whatever. And he's like, my name is Leonard Snart. Yeah, I know it's a bad name, but my parents were bad people. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, that's hilarious, the fact that he recognizes that what a stupid name it is, and then he says that I created this other name for me because I don't like my birth name. Like, that is Geoff Johns using the inner monologue really, really well, because especially with a character like Captain Cold, the point of monologue is to reveal things to the audience that a character would never say or do to other people. So like when Cold is talking to Wally in this, he calls him Wally. And then whenever he addresses him as the Flash, he's like, hey, Flash, I'm here to save you and bust you out of prison. Like, he says it really snarkily because he doesn't think Wally is the Flash. And that's because he respects Barry Allen. Barry Allen was his friend. And that's something that we get through his monologue that he would never admit to anybody else. Because Cold has this really tough guy exterior, but Cold understands the game that he played with Barry. And the second issue really gives us that stark difference between Barry and Wally, because Wally has that great line where he's like, Barry called the Rogues as having superiority complexes. I call it low self-esteem, which is a really interesting comparison between Barry and Wally's outlook on the Rogues. But you wouldn't get those details about Cold if this was a movie or anything, unless he's constantly narrating. So Geoff Johns is using this medium really well to foreshadow what he's going to do later on in his run.
Yeah, and also while we're talking about Cold, I really love this scene in the second issue, chapter 2 of the Wonderland story, where they're like, we've got, I want West alive, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
They call Captain Cold Mr. Freeze, and Captain Cold's like, I love this bit of dialogue. Mr. Freeze, that lovesick freak, he has an ice pistol, shoots snow. The name's Captain Cold, and this is a cold gun. I've achieved what Jewel and Thomas only dreamed of. My gun negates thermal motion, stops protons and electrons dead in their tracks. People too. I really like that, because it's this... I mean, I'll fully admit, I always thought, Captain Cold's just like the Flash's Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I've always thought in my head, but that is a perfect way of saying, no, he doesn't, like, ice things over. He, like, he attacks the molecules.
Yeah, and he gets
puts
pissed
them
off
to
that he's
absolute
called
zero.
Mr. Freeze, that lovesick fool. That just shows the difference not in the technology they use, but in the motivation. Cold is a crook, and I think it's explained in the New 52, which sounds like something Geoff Johns would say, but the reason why Cold is a crook is because everybody tries to make a living the best way they know how with the skills that they brought up with. And because Captain Cold and all the rogues have had rough upbringings, they were taught to be criminals. And so they're just trying to make a living the best way they can. Cold isn't about saving his wife like Freeze is. He gets pissed off at that because he's like, no, I'm a fucking crook. I'm here to steal your money and be successful and be richer than you, which is great. And Cold, on the next page after that, he freezes this guy's jaw and punches it off, killing him. So it's that verbal pun of a glass jaw.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great contrast to the TV show, because Wentworth Miller's Cold is really like verbally punny with all these cold and chill puns, and this that is not this Captain Cold. That is the only like pun that I know about in his run, and it's a verbal pun, and it's badass. He freezes this guy's jaw and punches him in the face and breaks his jaw off. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He really does give a great voice to these villains. I don't like these first couple issues. It is really rocky, but not because of the villain stuff. The villain stuff's done really well. I was, however, hoping that these two villains that appear in this stuff would find a way back to Barry's world regardless of his efforts, or Wally's world, sorry, regardless of his efforts, because, I don't know, I just kind of like them.
You mean Plunder and the Thinker?
Yeah, I just thought they should have made it back.
So, as somebody who has read all of pretty much all of Geoff Johns' run, I can say that Geoff Johns' Flash is an equivalent, or as damn near of an equivalent, to Grant Morrison's Batman. And I know those are fighting words for you, but the thing that makes Grant Morrison's Batman so great, for me at least, the two main reasons are that Grant Morrison really understands Wally West, and he understands the character to a point that he plans out his narrative and knows what he's going to do, at least thematically, from the beginning. So he layers his narrative so thoroughly and thickly that the more you go back and read something, the more you pick up on. So I've read this book 5 times. Every time I go back and read it, I find more things that pay off. So Geoff Johns has a great voice for Wally West, and he knows what he's doing for the beginning. It's not necessarily having Zura and R as graffiti on a wall in issue 1 and having paying off 100 issues later. But it's tighter, it's denser, it's more compact. But I'm glad you brought that up, because what happens to the Thinker in, I think it's that 4th issue, because that's when they leave the mirror world. The Thinker is spread across all of the computers of Keystone City by Captain Cold and Mirrormaster. And then we don't really know much about him, except that's how he goes out. And the only things we know about Plunder is that he shows up shooting at Chire and his men and killing them. And we know he's like the best marksman, the best like assassin in this mirror world. So like that's his defining character trait in this mirror world. So keep that in mind if we ever get to future Flash stuff. So
nice. Okay.
That's my tease.
Good. All right. Cool.
Hello?
Yeah, I like them. You know, it's interesting. We spent most of this talking about the first like arc, as it were, and that's the stuff I like the least. But once we get to the cicada and the tar pit stuff, it gets really good to me.
Hello?
Hey, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, did you hear me?
Yeah.
Did I cut out at all?
No, you're fine. We're good.
Okay, cool.
Still
I'm sorry. I think my headphones may have unplugged from my computer, but yeah, that's all my teas that I'll give for Plunder and Thinker.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's interesting that we're talking so much about the first couple issues, because that's the stuff I like the least. I really like when we get to the later stuff, like the cicada stuff I'm a little on the fence about still, but I really like everything after Tar Pit is damn near gold to me.
Yeah.
Tar Pit and After is awesome. Is Tar Pit a completely original character?
Yes. So something that Geoff Johns does right from the beginning is just create new things for the Flash. Brother Grimm is one of them. Tar Pit.
Really?
Yes.
You could totally have convinced me that was a Golden Age story.
Well, yeah, because and I don't mean to keep flashing back to that Wonderland arc, but those couple panels where Brother Grimm is saying, "Oh, Wally, Barry, and Jay came to Eastwind and helped me fight this war, and Wally told me to be my own man, and then they came back." That story never actually happened. That is Geoff Johns retroactively adding something on that completely fits within Wally's character. And another thing that he does is Julie. Julie is a completely new character as well, but he says that Wally met her right after he became the Flash. So, but that still fits within Wally's character, because when Wally became the Flash, he was still a womanizing brat. So, Geoff Johns does this mirror world where he creates Plunder, Chire, and then a new version of the Thinker. Then when we get back to the real world, we meet the actual Chire. Then we get another new character in Murillo. Then we get Tar Pit. And then I think we get Julie as well. And we get Cicada, whatever.
No, it's Cicada. I know, because those things are fucking annoying.
I suppose that's true. And then we get Murmur in the one shot, and in the one shot he creates. Where are those couple pages? He has Cicada, and in the one shot he does all those great panels. We see Dr. Alchemy as well there. We get Girder, which is a new rogue that he created. We get Double Down, which is a new rogue that he created, who actually showed up in Season 4 of Arrow. And then we get Murmur. So pretty much as soon as we get out of Wonderland, the minute Wally steps back into the normal Keystone, we have all these new characters, but they still feel like they fit in.
Yeah, they feel like they've been here forever and a day.
Right.
So who's Double Down again?
Double Down is the guy with the cards.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Gotcha.
He is more prevalent later on when I think it's book 3. But Geoff Johns describes him in interviews as the one rogue that got away, because he never really got to do anything with him, which sucks because in Arrow he was basically just an assassin who could throw cards based off the tattoos he has, which is a cool enough power, but they didn't really give him a character. But I'm sure if Geoff Johns had stayed on the book for longer, he would have had time to do like every single rogue.
Yeah. Fucking Murmur looks creepy as shit.
Oh, I know. I'm not really a fan of Ethan Van Sciver, but man, he can really convey mood and expression and emotion in these people. And I'm looking at that panel with Fallout, where he's like in the thing, and he's got that super creepy, like, skeletal look. He just looks super creepy. And so does Murmur.
You know what that reminds me of? Is Maxie Zeus from Arkham Asylum, Serious House, Serious Earth.
See,
that's what I'm reminded of looking at Fallout.
See, I still haven't read that yet, but I will have to.
Dave McKean is a fucking head trip.
Well, now I'm going to have to. And because I brought up Geoff Johns knowing what he's doing from the beginning, I should bring up that Geoff Johns does change 2 things in his run retroactively, and that's Fallout and the Top. Because his sentence here is 20 years for armed robbery, resentenced 11/23/97 for murdering a fellow inmate, life without parole. He changes that when we get more Fallout later. And so those are like really only two things where Geoff Johns doesn't, like, I don't want to say doesn't know what he's doing, but changes what he's doing to better inform the story.
Gotcha. And that's, it's tiny details in a one-shot that you can change later on. It's no big deal.
Right.
Like, it's one thing when it's a tiny detail. It's another thing when it's a big character moment, right? Like in the television show where we have this whole episode about Barry learning to let go of things that he can't control, and then deciding, nah, fuck it, I'm going to go change time at the end of the last episode.
Which episode was that? Because I feel like we do that every other episode every season, and that makes that show really hard to watch.
Yeah, fair enough. The best episode of Season 2, the one where it's basically whatever happened to the Scarlet Speedster.
The one where he's in the Speed Force, the Kevin Smith episode?
Yeah.
That was a really strong episode, and then by the end of the season, I was like, God damn it, Barry. And I feel like I say that every episode now.
Yeah.
Dude, that show just gives me headaches. Oh, man.
It's funny, man. I was, just to talk about that a little bit, I was, like, watching Season 2, I'm like, okay, this is pretty stupid, but it's, like, dumb, entertaining kind of stupid. So I don't really care that the logic of speed-based time travel doesn't hold muster. I'm okay with that being stupid. I'll give it a pass. I'll give it this was entertaining. I don't know why Steve hates it so much. And then those last 2 minutes, woo!
Yeah, well, it's really inconsistent, because, like, in Season 1, he can only travel back when he hits the, like, hydrogen particle in the particle accelerator, but then when he gets back to the past, the wormhole isn't still there. So how does he get back to the future? And then in Season 2, in that Arrow crossover, he ghosts again like he did in Season 1, just randomly, and then he travels. Then, when the Reverse Flash is there, they both have enough momentum to break the space-time barrier, and then in that episode where he goes back to Season 1, he just runs in the particle accelerator fast enough to go back, and then at the end of Season 2, he just runs back outside of the particle accelerator, like, just casually going back whenever we need to, and whatever circumstance the plot needs us to have.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's bad. It's just awful.
I don't mean to rip on the TV show too much, or so much, but it's just, like, it's so nice to go back to this old Flash and just casually just, like, have a story that's about the characters and not about who's faster. Mm-hmm. God, and, like, the thing about the Rogues, too, that make them better day-to-day villains, or at least better big villains than the Flash, is that it doesn't matter how fast Wally is in any of these stories. It matters...
Yeah, none of it's about speed.
It's matters
about finding a clever solution.
Yeah, it matters how fast he can think, how he can outsmart people, how he can, like, outmaneuver people in fights. It's all about the, like, intellect and how you fight and how you think. And because we're so focused on the TV show with... Zoom is faster than me.
Gotta go fast.
But what is faster? What does that mean? And then we're, like, messing up the numbers. Like, we're not focused enough on the actual meat of what it means to be the Flash and what it means to be.
Like, the perfect example of what you're talking about there is in the last issue of the Cicada story, when he's being, like, suspended by magnets.
Magenta.
And yeah, he's being suspended by Magenta's, like, magnetic field or whatever. Yeah. And he, like, says to her, where's the line? I gotta find it. It's like, mixing. You want to share auras? And then you get this great, like, bit of, exposition, internal monologue, but it's perfect. When any speedster uses their power, there's an atmospheric discharge, a side effect from our muscles processing the speed force. The air crackles with electricity, makes us look cool. But maybe it can come in handy here, too. When you run electricity through a magnet, well, you get an electromagnet. Essentially, the current amps the magnetic attraction several times over, in this case, many times more than that, Magenza's just become the most powerful magnet in the Midwest.
Yeah,
I love that.
Brilliant.
That's great sci-fi writing.
And that is why it's so great that we get the lightning coming off of Wally all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's also the reason why I hate it when artists draw the lightning coming off of only the lightning bolts on the suit. Because right here we see the Speed Force lightning is a result of Speedsters processing the Speed Force. It's a byproduct. And so like when we get to the New 52, when the lightning comes off of the seams in the suit and then the lightning bolts on the suit, like when Brett Booth draws it, yeah, it looks cool, but it's not accurate, you know. So it's
not accurate to this fake science-y bullshit. No, I agree. And like, I don't know, I think Geoff Johns does have a really strong voice for just clever sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like in his Green Lantern run, there's it's not typical King Shark. It's a different kind of King Shark where it's just pure animal. There's this shark that has been evolutionarily upgraded by gremlins, who are German-speaking aliens from Sector 2812, because why not?
Right.
It has been biologically evolutionarily upgraded so that it can, one, walk on land, and two, it has low-grade psychic powers, so it can actually freeze you with terror before it even comes up and eats you. So that's just really good. It can immobilize you with just complete fear. Your adrenaline just starts pounding, and you're stuck in just like where you're just frozen with fear. And that's just really clever sci-fi writing. That's really, really smart, and I don't think Johns does it enough. He gets too wrapped up, I feel sometimes, in really big stories when just simple, little, fun, clever explanations like that are the best kind of thing he can do.
That's true. And I'm looking through the end of the Cicada arc right now, because Cicada, we can talk about the beginning of it because it starts off like really heavy. But this ending part here, where he sucks the life energy out of his wife, and he's like, she did not die by my hand, and Chire starts shooting him, and he's like, why don't I believe that? And he's like, the lives I have been given, you are going to have to work your way through all of them, Chire. I highly doubt you have enough ammo to propel me from the mortal plane, meaning after all of the like life force that he sucked out of everybody, Chire has to shoot through every single life that Cicada has stolen in order to kill him over these 100 years, which is just really cool. And, you know, I always say that the best hero-villain stories are ones where the threat of somebody dying isn't like the first priority that we're trying to stop. Like, if the villain is trying to kill the hero, or if the hero is trying to kill the villain, that doesn't necessarily make for as good a storytelling as if both of them have to come out alive at the end of their battle and live with those experiences.
Let me ask you a question about Cicada, because I was a little unsure on this.
Yes.
There's like what we get in the story itself, and then there's what we get in the one shot at the end, the Iron Heights story. Okay. Let
me flip to the thing. You can go ahead. I'm just kidding.
All right. So Cicada is, for those that haven't read it, Cicada's got like this cult of people who worship the Flash as a god. Totally fine with that. It makes sense that people would act like that if superheroes were a real thing. I don't know if Cicada worships the Flash as a god, because we get that at the end in the Iron Heights thing. He seems to be saying something to that effect, that he's a true believer, as it were. But I don't know if that's him honestly. Like, I'm not sure if he's a cult leader who's using people's like ignorance to manipulate them to gain more lives for himself, or if he honestly does believe the Flash is a god, or if he's a cult leader and he says he honestly believes the Flash is a god because he knows it bugs the shit out of Wally. I'm not sure which it is.
Well, we know from the Cicada arc, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that he basically uses all of these people to steal their life force so he can be immortal. So we know all of his cult stuff is pretty much a lie, but he even says in the story that he and the Flash are sort of brothers because they were both blessed by the lightning, which really makes you question whether or not Cicada has some weird Speed Force power because he has this lightning coming off of him. And the one speedster trick that Wally can do that no other speedster can do is stealing and lending speed. Like taking kinetic energy and transferring it somewhere else. And that's something Cicada does. So I thought going through this in my most recent reading, I was like, is he supposed to have like Speed Force powers but not run fast? Because like
that's the impression I was
getting. Because like the Speed Force can give people powers, but they won't have necessarily super speed. Like, that's something that we're getting in more modern things, like in the New 52, where people are blessed with the Speed Force and they can do other things with it other than run fast. So I thought that's maybe what's going on as far as his powers, but he calls him his Lord in here, and he has the Flash, like, painted, like the symbol painted behind him. So I think there's a little bit of him kind of taunting Wally, but I think he just is so psychotic at this point that he actually believes that the Flash is his lord and that somehow they're still sort of brothers because they're blessed by lightning or something like that. And
I'm not sure. It's definitely really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, we really need more with this character. I do want Cicada to come back.
And this arc was 4 issues, and I felt like maybe it could have been 5, but Cicada is here in Iron Heights, and then when we go back to Iron Heights, he's there, and he refers to the Flash as his lord, and he's like, "May Flash be with you," and then dips out of the room because there's some big thing going on. But we don't get any more Cicada ever. And Geoff Johns has said that he actually has another Cicada story, and that he wrote around the time that Scott Collins was working on drawing this one, but they just haven't gotten a chance to do it yet. So there is a Geoff Johns untold Cicada story that we just haven't gotten yet, which is really unfortunate.
Well, to be fair, we didn't have Wally West as the Flash for like 5 years, so
that's also true. So I don't know. I'm glad that you like Cicada, because this story sort of opens up really bleakly because everybody the Flash has ever saved is killed nearly simultaneously. And
is it everyone? I thought it was just like a bunch of them. I didn't think it was all.
It's probably not all. But it's a lot of them. Which is
there's a shot of the Flash walking into
which is such a great 2-page spread. It's so great, and you know that just really conveys the sense of tension that's going on here, because the way to challenge the fastest man alive without putting him up against a speedster who is quote unquote faster than him is by putting him in a situation where he can't be everywhere at once. And we had that. Go ahead. Sorry.
We had that Riddler story, that Riddler Flash story right before the New 52 ended.
Yeah, that one.
And like that was perfect. It was exactly what you do against the Flash, is you just outthink him.
Right.
And like I would like to once again point out, because I don't feel like we mentioned this enough. Every time we put the Riddler up against someone else, at least in my experience of reading, they never actually win. They just luck out, and the Riddler loses.
Yeah.
There's a significant difference.
No, I remember reading that issue, and I'm like, wow, the Flash really didn't win here. Like, he just kind of lucked out.
Yeah, same thing happened with Green Arrow. It's hilarious.
When did he go up against Green Arrow?
It was in Winnick's run. The Riddler was literally about to had Star City hostage with a nuclear bomb, and the only reason he lost is because a mystical threat that Winnick had been building up, like, knocked out all power in Star City, so they were able to defeat the Riddler.
Plot armor? Question mark.
What?
Plot armor? Question mark.
I guess. I don't know, man. I'm just saying, no one beats the Riddler except Batman by skill alone.
Only Batman.
Only Batman.
But yeah, like that is the way to challenge the Flash. because even the fastest man alive can't be everywhere at once. And I think Wally even has a line of monologue where he says that. But I'm looking at that 2-page spread right now, and there's at least 22 bodies in this room, or 24.
Yeah, and I mean, so obviously that's not going to be everyone, but that is a very stark thing.
Right, and it's bad enough that Julie is the first one who we see murdered, and at that point, we're led to believe that Wally is the father, and he doesn't know it yet, and he may never know, because...
That bugged the crap out of me, I gotta be honest.
The baby Joshua?
Yeah, the fake out that it's not actually his kid bugged the crap out of me.
See, it didn't bug me, but I was hoping that it would actually be his. And I was surprised that it was Weather Wizard. Because...
I mean, I was surprised too, but not in a good way.
I suppose that's fair. I mean, Joshua isn't going to go away. I was just surprised because I knew when the New 52 started that they did this, like weird thing of making the rogues metahumans, which actually works, especially for Captain Cold with his powers, because the Flash can just disarm him with his gun, so it makes sense that they'd be metahumans. But it didn't even cross my mind that Joshua would be Weather Wizard's son, because how could Weather Wizard, who isn't a metahuman, pass down his technological powers and create a metahuman son with the powers that his wand has?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I didn't like that twist.
And then,
while we are in this area of the book, though, I do want to talk about one thing that I just generally wish more trades would do, and this is again on paneling and page layout. So there's this scene where Magenta throws Wally through a wall, and then you get a page turn, and you just get like the Flash symbol on like a nice red page, and then on the opposite page is Wally getting thrown through the wall. Yeah, thank you for keeping the page turns and panels consistent.
Right, I know. I thought that was really
trade.
nice.
I just generally want more things to be edited for trade like this. Like they don't do an incredibly good job of it, but they do a better job where like they take out some of the you can see it from time to time. They've like photoshopped out sections of the page where it would be like, this is what's happening in the last issue or whatever.
Yeah.
Editor's notes, stuff like that you don't need because you're reading in trade. I appreciate
I'm looking through this right now. I can't remember if it's here or later. Because Magenta is something that she hasn't been around since the 80s, and Geoff Johns brings her back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's later in the Sakata story. So he continues to use her throughout his run, and yeah, it is here, where Magenta wraps him up with all these tubes, and then he just kicks a fucking boulder in her face.
Yep.
Like, that was so great, and like that's such a Wally West Flash thing to do, because Barry Allen is so uptight and so like Silver Age that he would never do that. But Wally isn't above fighting quote unquote dirty to get the job done. And then we get that full page spread of her with her mask broken open and her eyes are all like cicaded out with the blue, and she's like, "We love you," which is really cool. But that panel where he just kicks a rock in her face, it's just like giant rock. It's super cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I thought it looked good. It's just neat. It's just well written. It's well done. I'm enjoying this quite a bit.
Yeah, so to talk more about the Scott Collins stuff, what else did you like about that when we got past Tar Pit and past to
Tar Pit. Like the Cicada was where it was starting to win me over, but I was still a little rocky on just parts of it. I think I was more rocky just from what we were going through beforehand. Where I was like, oh god, I've got so much more of this to finish, kind of thing. It's still far from perfect, though. I don't want to give that impression. But when we get to the Tar Pit stuff, I don't know. It comes off of a good high at the end of the Cicada thing. It's starting to build stuff up. I like what they're doing with the what's the name of the police guy? Not Shire, but
Murillo.
his partner. I like what we're building up with him having like a healing factor.
Yeah, Mario is super cool. And I'm glad you brought him up too, because we meet Shire in the mirror world, and then we meet him here in the real world, and he's like a beat cop. And Julie's grandfather was his first partner, and he died on the job, and then Julie died, and so he's got this like super sense of guilt, and so that's why he wants to take in Joshua. But we meet Maria when we get back to the normal world, and what we know about him so far is he always listens to his wife, he's very good at his job, and he's extremely arrogant. And then he gets this really cool healing power. And the first panel where Chayo and Mario interact is when Chayo socks him in the face, and then Mario's like, "You spilled my coffee." Like, he's not even fazed by this beat cop who's like 60 years old, this like hulking massive muscle, just whacking him across the face. He's not even like fazed by that, which is awesome.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, the tar pit issue, I love how it starts where he's able to unpack his entire house in, like, seconds.
Yeah.
And then his wife wants him to put it all back. And he's like, but I want to help. And she goes, books don't go above the sink, Wally.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah, so it's just like, I like when people play with that, with like, okay, what would you do in your day-to-day life with superpowers?
Yeah, and that's why it's so great to go back and read this classic Flash for me. Because like little scenes like that just make it. And in that next 2-page spread after that scene, another gorgeous 2-page spread by Scott Collins showing, even though he's not going to put in a lot of line work detail into his figures, he's going to chop that background full of all this detail, and it's all going to look good, and it's all going to look right. And it's
like, I mean, there's scaffolding on the buildings.
Yeah.
There's people on the streets. I love the smokestacks because they talk about it being a very blue-collar town. It looks really good.
Yeah, and Keystone, the way that Geoff Johns has talked about Keystone is that he basically made it Detroit, where it's very blue collar, everybody works here, because, you know, Jay Garrick, because at this point in DC continuity, because after Crisis on Infinite Earths, they didn't have the multiverse, which is why when we went to the Mirror World, it wasn't an alternate timeline, it wasn't Hyper Time, it wasn't Earth 2, it was a Mirror World because there weren't any other Earths to go to. So because of that, Jay Garrick was Keystone City's protector, then Barry Allen was in Central City, and then Wally West is in Keystone. So you have that back and forth between Keystone and Central City, and we really get that vibe of Keystone being this really blue-collar town, of everybody here really working, because we get the union stuff with Kenyon, with Goldface at the back. And I think I noticed this on my most recent reading, when they go to the Green Lantern Museum in the Mirror World, there's a panel in there where Wally's at the center of the panel, and there's a statue of Goldface in there, because Goldface is originally a Green Lantern villain, so Johns is seeding from the beginning that he's going to be bringing Goldface in, which is great.
Yep.
So it's so nice to get all this stuff when we get back to Keystone and really have this identity, even though Wally doesn't have a day job. Like, his day job is the Flash because everybody knows who he is.
I was really surprised by that, because they don't really establish it until quite a ways into this that everyone knows who he is. They just kind of expect you to know. I was not prepared for that at all, because like, I'm used to Marvel. No one really has a secret identity besides like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And here, like, DC is the universe of secret identities to me. So to just have people like the security guard goes up to Wally at the hockey games like, hey, we need the Flash down here. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, and the first time I read through this, I was like, wait a minute, people know who he is? So I did a little bit of research, and when Wally became the Flash, everybody knew who he was. He outed himself. And then in a Green Arrow issue, Green Arrow talks about Barry and Wally and says that since Wally was going to continue as the Flash, he wanted the Flash legacy would live on, but he didn't feel that Barry Allen's legacy would live on. So he closed down the Flash Museum and opened it up with plaques and everything that didn't just say the Flash, but said like Barry Allen, and then he held a press conference where he outed himself as Wally West. So he purposefully outed himself because he didn't want Barry Allen's legacy as the Flash to be forgotten, which is really cool. And we can talk about this more if we get into the other books, but this is like Wally West in his prime. Like Geoff Johns handling Wally West with his identity being outed really is the last hurrah, because when Geoff Johns leaves the Flash book in 225, it goes on for a couple issues and then it gets canceled for Bart Allen, and then we really don't see Wally again, and then the New 52 happens. So like this Wally is the Bronze Age Wally West, where everybody knows who he is, and because the Flash is DC's primary legacy character, we're able to do so much more with the legacy because we're able to get other people's perceptions of it other than the title character, like Captain Cold, like Mirror Master, like all the people in Keystone City who know the Flash, because the Flash is their friend. He grew up here. This is his home. He helps everybody out. And like this is just so great. I love it that Wally's identity is outed because we're able to do so much with that. And maybe not a lot right now, but later on, like it keeps pushing and pushing and pushing with this whole identity thing, and that allows us to do a lot with it, which is awesome.
Yeah, and then so the rest of the Tar Pit issue, I mean, I like Tar Pit. I think it's funny that Captain Cold gets annoyed his hockey game got interrupted. Like, Tar Pit's just a neat idea for a villain. It's a way to do a Flash villain that's an actual threat to Barry and is not a speedster himself.
Right.
He's beaten in maybe a little bit too much of a convenient way, but whatever. I don't know if he was really ever meant to come back, but I know we've heard of him again since. So
Tar Pit?
Yeah, I know. Like, I was looking into the canceled Flash video game. For people that don't know about it, look into that. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
And you'll get like really pissed. But like, I know there was rumors that they were going to put Tar Pit in the game as a boss fight, and he was going to be like the most complicated boss fight and stuff too. So I don't know. Just I'm aware the character has been referenced again.
Tar Pit's here for most of Geoff Johns' run, because like I said, the Rogues are really the like driving force of Geoff Johns' run, though like that's what his run is known for. So Tar Pit will be back, but I don't think really anybody uses him. I mean, he shows up in one episode of the TV show, and he's just there for cool CGI, and that's pretty much it.
Gotcha.
So there really isn't. Nobody really ever messes with Tar Pit.
But he's come back. He's
come back. And he's come back in the Flashpoint universe because Scott Collins wrote and drew a Captain Cold miniseries from the Flashpoint universe with Citizen Cold, which was brilliant. And Tar Pit's in that, but he really isn't like a big player. I don't think Tar Pit is really ever like a super big player. But he's part of the Rogues, so he's still here. The rest of the run, but
yeah, I don't know, and so I thought he was a neat idea for a villain, and it's cool that he's been used again since, because like there's those characters, like I always talk about this whenever someone says, oh, Batman doesn't do his job, all he does is put the people away in Arkham and they get out like 10 minutes later. I'm like, really? Have you ever heard of Crash and Burn? And they're like, fuck no. Of course you haven't, because they were only in 2 issues, they were put in Arkham and they haven't escaped since.
That's a good point. So, I mean, since you bring up Arkham, Iron Heights, what did you think about that?
Yeah. Oh man, that was a good ass story. I'm really interested to see where it goes. I was a little on the fence on whether or not I wanted to buy the second volume of this because, like I said, it starts out pretty rocky, it never gets like perfect, but damn the ending of that one shot. Like, if nothing else, they knew how the fuck to end this trade. If nothing else, I can definitely say that, because if that doesn't make you want to read more of it, nothing will.
Right, because that issue was just so good. And so in that last page, we get Murmur, Plunder, so we know he's in the real world. He made it out of the mirror world. We get Mirror Master, which is Evan McCullough, and I'll say something briefly about that in a second. We get Mirror Master, Magenta, Girder, and then we get this mysterious shrouded woman, who we don't know who she is yet, but she's probably the leader because she talks about the new rogues. Because none of the rogues here are the returning rogues or the classic rogues, because this Mirror Master is Evan McCullough, the Mirror Master that Grant Morrison created. Sam Scudder was the original Mirror Master, and he ended up dying. And McCullough, I think, because Morrison created him, and so there's like that weird Morrison-like fling to it. And so McCullough is from Scotland. He grew up in the McCullough orphanage, and he was getting bullied one day and ended up killing his bully. And then he went on to become an assassin for the Scotland government. And then they got the gear of the original Mirror Master, Sam Scudder. Sam Scudder, and then he became like the bounty hunter using Mirror Master's stuff. And then he's like, you know what? I don't like working for the government. Killed everybody in the government, and then went to America and joined the Rogues.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've got Grant Morrison's Flash sitting right here. I'm reading that next. I bought that while looking for this. So.
Yeah. So McCullough is just a really cool character, and what's interesting is that you picked up on the buddy cop thing between Cold and McCullough in the first couple issues here when they're in the mirror world. McCullough and Cold get along surprisingly well in light of Cold's moral code, because his moral code in Geoff Johns' Flash is much more prevalent and called into question than anywhere else, especially in the TV show, because his whole thing is you never kill unless it's kill or be killed or for its revenge, never do drugs because it leads to killing, and then never kill a speedster. Those are like his three sort of main things that we get in this first part here. And McCullough is a cocaine addict, and he kills people. So it's really surprising that he and Cold get along so well, because McCullough violates two of Cold's rules.
And it's interesting because I don't feel like... I haven't read the old school Mirror Master stuff with the original Mirror Master, but I don't feel like Geoff Johns is just writing the old guy with the new guy's name, right?
Yeah.
The dialogue feels very, at the very least, American writing Scottish. Everything about him feels like he's, an authentic character. I didn't feel like he was, writing some different version of the Mirror Master. So I don't know. I thought that was cool that it worked out that way.
Yeah, it was. It's just really cool to get these characters who just feel like a part of this universe, and half of this trade is spent in other universes, which to sort of come full circle. That break between Wade's run and Johns' run is so brief, and we start out this run with everything looking like Wade's run. But all of, like, Mirror Master, Cold, and Wally are sort of, like, I guess the three characters that we see the most of in Johns' run. Obviously, like, Wally's in every issue. He's the main character, duh. But we put these characters into situations in these first 6 issues where they don't exist and where they don't have their legacies, so they have to define themselves through their actions, which is showing, not telling, because telling would be through dialogue. But especially with Wally here, like, Johns is able to condense Mark Waid's arc for Wally, which took 8 years to do, into 6 issues. And then we're able to set that down as to who Wally is, who the Flash is, what does he stand for, and progress that by questioning, is that enough? How far should he go? Should he cut open Murmur's mouth? in that one shot. He literally thinks to himself, am I going too far? And he's like, no, I need to save lives. So we establish those defining character traits really early and really brilliantly by putting them in Mirror Worlds and in Eastwind, so we can question those moving forward, which is really great.
And what's really interesting about that little moment in Iron Heights when he's questioning, am I going too far? No, I'm protecting people, is that directly parallels what the real villain of that story is doing.
Yeah.
You know, Murmur's a villain in that story, but the real villain is the Warden.
Right.
And I love that. The Warden is on the right side of the law. He is doing what he thinks is correct to do, which is to treat these supervillains as ultra-dangerous prisoners, and, you know, he doesn't want to give them any kind of human rights.
Right, and he makes them wear their costumes in the pipeline. So if they ever escape, the guards know to shoot them on sight because they're wearing their costumes. Like,
yeah, I like that. That's a great little... It both works as a really fucked up character thing, and it works as like a annoying trope that never makes sense, but I love it anyway, that comic books have.
Yeah.
You know, where the supervillains get to stay in their costumes in prison.
Right.
That's something that annoys the shit out of people, and I don't care. I love it. And so, I don't know, that's just a really, really good setup and juxtaposition, and I like the way that this guy is written. He's clearly gone too fucking far, and he can't see the forest through the trees.
Well,
I love that.
Well, right, he said, the line is, I don't like doing this, I feel like I'm crossing a line I shouldn't. And then we get that black panel with the slash, and then the blood splatter, and then he screams, and he says, sorry, my hand's a little unsteady, now talk to me, where are you? And then he murmurs, wink wink, and then he's like, my God, he's never gonna incriminate himself again. He's made damn sure of that. He cut out his own tongue. Like, that just shows how twisted he is, and then he realizes the virus isn't airborne. Because then the water drips on him.
It's water-based.
And the water drips on him, because in that panel where he's like, he's never going to incriminate himself, he turns on the fire thing, so the water starts pouring on everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, I thought that was really interesting, and again, I just love the way it's paralleled with the Warden of Iron Heights, and how he is a guy who thinks he's doing the right thing, who is using his power just blatantly wrongly. He's powering the prison with an inmate.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it's just, he's covering his tracks, he's doing all kinds of stuff because he cares more about himself. Like, in his head, it's for other people. In reality, it's about himself.
Yeah,
I really like
and
that.
He's a metahuman too, but nobody seems to know it. So if you like Warden Gregory Wolf, there's more to come.
Yep, great character. Really, again, Johns knows what he's doing with villains.
Right.
So greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
We kind of skipped over the stuff with Weather Wizard. I didn't like the twist of what was it, Gregory, or the kid's name?
Joshua?
Josh, okay. I didn't like the twist of Josh being Weather Wizard's kid. I did like the way Weather Wizard was written, no?
Yes. He's written very, very, very well here. And he uses his powers in such a threatening way that we, again, don't really get on the TV show. He's so, powerful here. And that tornado that he creates, that is such a great scene. I'm just going to read a little bit of this here because Wally's having a hard time unraveling this tornado. Because the only time we've seen a tornado in the Flash TV show is outside of Central City in the pilot, and then in the beginning of season 3, which is in a steel mill. And the tornado isn't sucking anything up, it's just air, so Barry can unravel it. But in this one, Wally thinks, I've outraced tornadoes before. Usually, I can run against its wind vortex and cancel the sucker out like they've done in the TV show. But this twister isn't just powered by 300-mile-per-hour winds and a supercell thunderstorm. It's backed by the Weather Wizard's rage. And then he's thinking about what what could drive him to do this before they find out that it's his son, and he's like trying to run through everything. And then they continue it here. Where is this? I thought it was in the same issue. I shouldn't have started reading.
Gotta watch myself closer, avoid the debris, keep my footing firm, heat up the air at the base of the tornado, create my own counter vortex, and absorb as much speed from the flying shrapnel as I can, so as the cold air dissipates, so does the threat.
Yeah.
A cushion of air allows me to lower everyone and everything gently.
And in that page before, the way he gets out of the tornado is by phasing, because every speedster has like a thing that they can do. Like Wally's thing is stealing and taking speed. Wally is like the fastest Flash. He's known for being faster than Barry. But Barry was much more scientific. And I guess the way to compare and contrast them is that Barry was about precision, Wally was about power. So Wally has been the Flash for like 10 or 15 years in continuity, and he still can't phase through something without it having blow up. But that actually works as something that he can use offensively and defensively here to get himself out of that tornado by phasing his hand into that truck to get it to blow up, to propel him with enough force to get out of the tornado so he can unravel it. Which is a really cool use of his lack of precision with his powers. So even though he's not as precise or skilled as Barry, he's still just as smart and just as clever as Barry ever was.
Yeah, it's just cool. They do that a couple times where him exploding something is like how him phasing something and blowing it the fuck up is how he like gets out of a situation in this. So I thought that was
Doesn't he do that with a wand too? Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He does it with a wand, and that's how he depowers the Weather Wizard, which, again, is really cool, but just more evidence to the fact that if the rogues were metahumans, they wouldn't have to deal with this.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I agree. It's really well thought out. It's far from perfect. There are problems, and we've talked about them here and there, but it's still really well written.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm about out of stuff I wanted to say about it. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about with this first run?
I mean, we've talked about a lot. I mean, you expressed that you didn't really care for the Wonderland arc, which I mean I totally get. But I guess my only consolation for that is the more once you know what's going on thematically, what we're working with here with the legacy, with everybody, then I think that you'll appreciate some of this a little bit more. Because when that supposed the resident worker, when he's locked up in the first issue, is asking him about a symbol because they don't have a Flash in that world. Nobody became the Flash. When she asks him who it is, every Flash, Jay, Barry, and Wally get a page detailing their origins and the symbol. So back in the 1940s, Jay got caught in a lab accident. He inhaled supercharged hard water fumes for over 12 hours. He could have died. Instead, he was granted a gift. The gift of speed. He called himself the Flash. The Native Americans believed that when their creator, the Thunderbird, or their creator spirit, the Thunderbird winked, lightning would strike. Jay had been blessed, and to him, the lightning was a symbol of that blessing. And then he talks about how Barry loved every step that he took, that he added the white circle around the lightning bolt because it added unity to his life. He felt complete. And then Wally talks about how after Barry died, I swore to uphold his legacy. In India, lightning is the flashing of the third eye of Shiva, the light of truth. That's what this means to me, truth. It's who I really am. So from the first issue, Johns takes a considerable amount of time to establish the legacy of the Flash, what it means. So again, we have this foundation, so we can challenge it going forward. And I think when we get more of that challenging of it moving forward, I think that the Wonderland arc might make a little bit more sense, or might be more enjoyable to read, I guess.
Gotcha.
But that's
probably won't be more enjoyable to look at.
Yeah, that's fair. But I will, like, the one little, I guess, Easter egg that they have is that in that mirror world, Joan Garrick, the woman who would be Joan Garrick, is married to Edward Claris. Edward Claris is the rival, and the rival at this point in DC history has been dead since his first appearance fighting Jay Garrick, because the rival is Jay Garrick's Reverse Flash. So in this mirror world, when Jay died in battle, his Reverse Flash ended up marrying Joan Garrick and being drunk and beating her or whatever, which is really interesting.
Gotcha. Okay,
So,
cool. Jacob, you're aware of how we do the ratings on this show, correct?
Give me a refresher.
All right. So you gotta rate it on a 5 scale using a noun from the thing that we're reviewing. I'll go ahead and go first, and then hopefully you can pick up.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna give the first volume of Geoff Johns' Flash 3.75. I want to give it a 4, but I feel it's got just a little bit too many issues for that. 3.75 out of 5. Knives shaped like lightning bolts.
Interesting. Yeah, that was really, I don't know, and that was really cool, because then Wally gets that scar on his chest where the Speed Force suit forms out of there and it smells like rubber. I'm going to give The Flash Volume 1 Book 1, by Geoff Johns, a 4.5 out of 5. Speed Force lightning coming out of lightning bolts on the suit. I know that's
it's
is
funny.
that a noun phrase?
It's so funny. Yeah, that's fair. It's funny because every so often I've thought about, maybe I should Photoshop in whatever it is we're talking about as the rating scale. Instead of using stars, I'll actually Photoshop in the object we're talking about. But then sometimes we get really fucking specific or really vague for things that I can't possibly visualize.
Or Captain Cold's gun, if you give this book below a 3.5. That's what I'm going to use. Jokes. Cold puns. Now I'm being Wentworth Miller.
Yeah, no, now you're being Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, shit. Oh, man.
Okay, yeah. I can definitely say, though, that last issue, the way the book picks up the pace.
Oh, yeah, it definitely has. It definitely goes uphill, and as somebody who has read this, it only gets better from here. Uphill battle. Yeah. It only gets better.
I can definitely say I'm picking up Volume 2, so I'll let you know when I've got the chance to get a hold of that and read it, and yeah, we'll definitely be
awesome.
Back. Because this is primo stuff. Okay. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Flasher.
What, do you fucking go up and expose yourself to people?
I mean, I guess now I just give myself that name on the spot, but now I guess I gotta live up to it. Well, I guess I gotta change my art for the podcast, so wait on an update for that, people.
Yeah, you're gonna put yourself in a trench coat and socks?
I suppose so.
Alright. And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Always. See you guys.